Which was the one where his daughters got him drunk and
Yeah, that
slept
was
with him?
Lot, and he survived
Yeah.
the nuclear blast of
Oh,
Sodom and Gomorrah,
Yes.
Sodom and
and
Gomorrah,
he
yeah.
even had to
Also, the
flee.
nuclear blast of Mohenjo-daro in the Mahabharata.
That's right. I'm always fascinated by that stuff as well. Like when it comes to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was known as the airport of Ravana, who was considered to be like the bad guy, although he's also worshipped by certain Hindu sects. And when I think about airport, like I'm not imagining like they drew these dorky but kind of cute looking pictures of this temple floating thanks to the power of these geese. I'm sorry, or swans. No, 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 it wasn't that, man. Like, I think that the closest thing would be that they actually had aircraft that was able to hover or levitate or whatever, and that's how they got around. I don't take the swan seriously at all.
Swans are a symbol of moksha, right? Of like enlightenment, you could say. I believe you see that often in their art. So it's almost like they're crediting these beings as being beyond us or something like that.
No, I could definitely see that. I mean, same thing with the bird.
Yeah, swans are also associated with the syllable hum, H-U-M, in Tantra. So they're associated with a lot of things. But yeah, no, I totally believe in the ancient nuke stuff. And there's so many, there's like a preponderance of ancient religious sources where they talk about these super weapons that like reduce men to ash and poison the food and make places uninhabitable and so on and so forth. Like the Ramayana has such a thing happen where one of the ostras is unleashed and it poisons all the food and makes soldiers die, and then it kills them for weeks after the initial explosion. And it just sounds like a nuke to me, man. That just has to be like an ancient nuke.
And
that's what, dude. It has to be. Like, just when you think about all of the symbology of lightning strikes and how, what does that sound like? What does that sound like? A weapon that's like a lightning bolt or just boom.
The Vajra.
Yeah.
Well, if you're seeing something that you're interpreting as like the wrath of God, then there are a few things that it could also be like interpreted as, other than some technologically advanced super weapon.
And they say that
with Vimanas.
Yeah, the Vimanas, and then they say that like it's a weapon, charged with like heavenly lightning that creates a sun, or like it like births a sun, and the sun like smothers out all life. It's just like all these terms just sound so nuclear.
Well, also we find nuclear glass. We literally find it's not like fulgurite, it's something else, but it's nuclear glass, but we find that everywhere, like places that it shouldn't be. We just find giant craters of nuclear glass.
But here's the quotes. This is crazy. I remember my eyes bugged out the first time I read this. So obviously they referenced the Vimana. So Gurkha, flying a swift and powerful Vimana, hurled a single projectile charged with the power of the universe. An incandescent column of smoke and flame as bright as 10,000 suns rose with all its splendor. It was an unknown weapon, an iron thunderbolt, a gigantic messenger of death which reduced to ashes the entire race of the Vrishnis and the Ondikas. The corpses were so burned as to be unrecognizable. Hair and nails fell out. Pottery broke without apparent cause. The birds turned white. After a few hours, all the foodstuff was infected. To escape from this fire, the soldiers threw themselves in streams to wash themselves and their equipment. Dense arrows of flame like a great shower issued forth upon creation, encompassing the enemy. A thick gloom swiftly settled upon the Pandava hosts. All points of the compass were lost in darkness. A fierce wind began to blow upwards, showering dust and gravel. Then birds croaked madly, and the very elements seemed disturbed. The earth shook, scorched by a terrible, violent heat of the weapon. Elephants burst into flame and ran to and fro in a frenzy over a vast area. Other animals crumpled into the ground and died. From all points of the compass, the arrows of flame rained continuously and fiercely. So that's the quote.
Yeah, that's obviously a nuclear weapon.
Amazing. It's talking about fallout, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they threw themselves in the river. The foodstuffs were poisoned. The animals died.
Yeah, no, there is
the hair and nails, especially.
Yeah.
Well, as ancient astronaut theorists say, I think it's that's one criticism I've always had, even though for a long time I've followed the works of people like
Sitchin?
Yeah, Sitchin and Eric Von Däniken. When I was a kid, I watched his documentary, and I was always listening to Coast to Coast. But
yes, yeah, Coast to Coast is the shit, bro.
Oh, the Art Bell days, man.
fuck George Norrie. All my homies hate George Norrie.
Well, apparently, Apparently, he's a backstabber behind the scenes. But...
No one wants to buy your flashlights, George.
Kryptonite by Kryptonite. We need to get. But one criticism I've heard that was probably the best would be from John Anthony West. I don't know if you guys know about the famous Egyptologist, right?
We mentioned him in the stream.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. He said in Joe Rogan, fucking Joe Rogan, he said that as much as the materialist atheists that have a very rigid form of the theory of evolution, as much as they rob the human spirit of creativity and divinity, he said so too to these ancient alien people that think that, humanity can't manifest anything without a very materialistic intervention by, the Greys or whatnot. And so, for example, with the Mahabharata, when they describe something that is obviously similar to like a megadeth nuclear weapon, it's really striking because it seems that when archaeologists and historians look to these ancient texts, they really use every other explanation besides, well, what if it's true? You know what I mean?
Because they're coping. Because it's just cope.
It's cope,
Major
obviously.
cope.
So yeah, I think that's a good critique, because that seems to be like, well, of course the aliens gave us nuclear weapons because
Well, there is a middle
I also
ground
think
here.
that.
Oh, sorry. There's a quick thing I wanted to add, which is I think that there is a middle ground where you can have the idea that these quote unquote aliens, they're also.
Oh, I believe in aliens. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I
sure,
do.
sure, but like the aliens themselves.
Yeah,
like,
they're human beings.
Yeah, they're human beings.
They're Aryans.
Well, yeah, I mean they're Aryans, Hyperboreans, like whatever you want to call them. Like they're these tall beings compared to whom like a lion would be like, like this size. So they did not get portrayed as these holier than thou individuals. Much like the Greek and Roman gods, you had Enki and Enlil and all of those cats, fighting amongst each other. They had very human characteristics. So in that sense, I think they are also connected to higher archetypes, and they may have been capable of things that far surpass our knowledge, not only technologically but also mentally speaking. But at the same time,
what I don't think it mostly comes down to the technological aspect. I think that sort of is a corollary, but I don't think it is that. I think it's mostly spiritual. I think most or mental, however you want to say it. I think that before, I mean, like evidence, but this is just my opinion, that before modernity sort of poisoned the well of human experience, I do believe that there were infinite powers that humans possessed that have been since lost. But I do think that if that's what humans were capable of, then things that were greater than human, like these Hyperboreans that we talk about, or the Aryans, whatever you want to say, that the powers that they would have possessed technologically or otherwise are beyond our imagination.
Well, it's like use it or lose it, where we had these
exactly.
Aborigines, either Aborigines or other tribes, who described back in the days of the telegraph that they were able to know whether the tribe was successful in their hunt, and would either set up a party or would sit around and mope if they weren't successful, based on, like they said, like, you guys have a telegraph, and then they pointed to their heart and said, well, this is our telegraph. So there is something...
So actually I was just about to comment on that. So it's so funny because they did like this study recently, and I'll look for it eventually. I hate like keeping references, but like it is veritable facts. So, like they've done tests that like humans can pick up on the interstitial beat of other humans.
We
like
talked about this.
Yeah, verifiably, empirically, and you can pick up on like the emotions and like the like different various like subtle cues. In modernity, they've measured this, right? And like just like the whale has like the low vibration that whales used to be able to communicate the entire scope of the planet from like low vibrational hums in the ocean until ships made it too loud. Similarly, I think that the modern modern society has like limited our ability to like sense the interstitial beats. But like even now, if you ever like half of what people talk about like with pickup artistry or blah 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 is, or like with the how to win friends or influence people, is really just getting in touch with like your ability to sense and manipulate others, quote unquote manipulate, via that like subconscious cueing. It's all like,
well, now the whales have to deal with microplastics, so there you go.
Yeah.
It almost feels like we're like unable to keep up with like social norms. That's how you have stuff like the hikikomori and meats and all of this stuff. So it's even on that level.
Exactly. Like if we're so like the ability for us to like, because again, we're a pack animal, right? Like it's not like you don't have to tell wolves how to communicate with each other as a group. They don't use language. It's like subtle. It's like subconscious.
Also,
Similarly, humans have the same vibe.
Yeah, and no one told a bird where and how to migrate. No one described the beach that a sea turtle was born at, that it should return there. It's internal. It's that state of ecstasy that is everything and anything you will ever need.
And humans were communicating as pack animals prior to the verbal,
verbal like a communication.